Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, non-binary, distinguished guests, welcome to Ridiculous, the Life of a Clown. Hello, and welcome to Ridiculous Life of a Clown. I'm Gherkin Picklewater, and today my guest is the very special clown, strongman, actor, all-around amazing guy, member of Pi for a very long time, Mr. Jon Deline. Jon, please tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jon Deline, as you said, and I've been a clown, comedian, actor, and teacher for the past 10 years. I went to school and got my bachelor's in theater arts with a minor in developmental psychology, so I have a little bit of that coming out with a lot of the stuff I do, but most of it is centered around being a professional idiot, as any time will tell you.
That's wonderful. I didn't know you had a bachelor's degree. Did you get that at UC Santa Cruz, or did you just study theater at UC?
I have my bachelor's in theater arts, and I was going to be a double major theater arts and developmental psychology, but I graduated a year early so I could join the Pi Clowns up in clown school. So I had another whole year planned out for myself for my fourth year in college to finish my psychology degree, but I only ended with a minor with like early childhood developmental credits, which brought me into a lot of the teaching I've done in the last well over a decade. But I haven't been doing that much in this last year because most of my teaching has been after school programs, which don't really exist right now.
So, going back to before Santa Cruz, before getting your degree, before joining Pi, before any of that, what brought you to clown in the first place?
I've always liked physical comedy. I mean, I grew up with, watching some of the greats, John Candy, Chris Farley, the rotund comedians, John Belushi's in there too, and even getting into, Three Stooges and that sort of slapstick and Mel Brooks and all of these different things that used character and clown to make statements about things, to use that kind of comedy rather than just something that's, super dry. Even though I do appreciate dry British humor, like Monty Python and The Toast of London is one of my favorite comedic shows that have happened. And I think that's clown. There too.
Oh yeah, I'd say Matt Berry is definitely. I mean, I don't know if he'd consider himself a clown, but I think he definitely. That's who you're talking about with Toast of England, right? Matt Berry.
Yes.
Is Rich Fulcher on that as well, or is it just Matt Berry? I think there's another show that they star in together. But yeah, I've seen a little bit of Toast of England. He's an actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very much taking a very clowny look at the role of being an actor. Of at least the things I've experienced so far in LA, I'm still more new to kind of that sort of pursuing things in a more acting sense through the guise of I want to be a comedian, I want to be a clown, I want to do it in different mediums than just circus.
That makes sense. And Clown Conservatory that we both went to is very circus oriented. It is whereas what you studied in under Paddy Gallagher, is that correct?
Yes.
Would be more theatrical clown, and Absolutely. clown in a broader sense than circus specific clowning.
Absolutely, and they have a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. It's kind of like one of those things where it's you can call a square a rectangle, but a rectangle isn't a square. I feel like circus clowning is more specialized, but theater clowning and film clowning and even clowning in stand-up is all a form of that comedy. But I think circus takes it to such a different place because circus clowning is so much more about kind of basically being otherworldly, bringing into this place of wonder, which all clowns do, but it's so much more dreamlike than a lot of even Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin, who I believe are clowns. Their style was so much more based in reality of like you have this tramp character, Charlie Chaplin, based in a world with cops and these other things. So much more related to the world we live in, rather than this imaginative, wonderful, otherworldly world of what circus.
Let's see. Yeah, that's a lot to absorb. Do you consider your clown a surrealist? I mean, a lot of what you're describing could be considered Dadaist or surrealist. Do you consider your clown a surrealist?
I think all clowning kind of goes towards that place. I think it's on a spectrum. Like, I mean, once you get to like Buffon, that's really surrealist. That is really kind of out there to the extremes of humanity. But like, I think all clowns kind of live in that surrealist space, because it's like making light of the things that we experience, the problems, tribulations that we experience in real life, but to this place where it's exaggerated enough that we can laugh at it, rather than like, oh, I feel bad. I'm feeling empathy, and this makes me want to cry. It's like really towing that line. It has to be a little bit surreal.
I mean, talking about towing that line, Schadenfreude is a big part of what my clown is about, and about what I enjoy, which is that suffering, that degree of suffering. That's there is all comedy has some pain in it, at some point. Yeah. So go ahead.
One of my favorite quotes from one of my teachers in college was, "Comedy is pain, farce is agony," and like I believe found that so many things like agony with it, wanting something and not being able to get it, or like yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. You said, sorry, you're breaking up just a little bit. You said comedy. Say it again. The quote again.
Oh, comedy is pain, farce is agony.
Farce is agony. That's interesting. Farce is agony, because I mean, farce and satire are essentially the same thing. Denotatively the same thing. We all give them our own connotations, whereas one is political and one is not. But farce and satire are denotatively the same thing. So to think of that as agony, that's a really interesting concept.
Absolutely. Whenever I think about it, I always the thing for me that really connects to that message is like in Commedia dell'arte, which is a Italian form of physical comedy that has the lovers in it, which are always these characters who basically in it thinking that it's like they're usually young, they're usually like falling in love for the first time in their lives, and they usually in the plot of the play either can't be with each other or think the other person's cheating on them. Which, if you think about that space for yourself as a person, the first time you were in love and your first love, you think they're cheating on you or you can't be with them, that's agony. That's agonizing. But in the way the play is constructed, it becomes comical. But it's, again, that thing that we relate to this agony, but they do it so exaggerated that it's funny. We laugh at it. We can relate. And it's not real enough for seeing them actually openly like we would, like, it toes that line. But
hey, John, do me a favor and kill your video. I'm gonna see if that works a little bit better. I'll kill mine as well, so you're not just sitting there staring at my face. So let's talk a little bit about acting and comedy. What brought you to LA?
A lot of different things, but really just opportunity and being in a place that's closer to where the hubs of entertainment are. Like, especially as a clown, like, being in LA keeps me close to Vegas, and I really pursue more of the circus aspect. I feel like Las Vegas is kind of the hub of circus performance in the United States. But it's just the amount of opportunity that's in Los Angeles is like exponential. Like, I've gotten so much more work here than I ever did in the Bay Area.
That's amazing. Because you would expect it to be a lot more competitive at the same time.
Absolutely, it is. It's just the amount of work that's available here is just astronomical, and there's so many more things that are happening, as well as just the fact that like there's money set up to bolster the industry. Because like when I had lived in the Bay Area, I saw a whole bunch of different comedy clubs close, and in LA, comedy spaces are just everywhere. Like there are so many different places. There's like Lyric Hyperion does a lot of like clowning and live show stuff. I know that the Idiot Workshop with John Gilkey and Wet the Hippo has done some stuff there. There's a lot of like I found a lot more spaces. Like I mean, and half of them are bars. Are just open. People come in, yeah, do a show, whatever. I've just experienced a lot more of that than I'm used to.
That's amazing. I mean, I would love to have the experience of having those kind of opportunities open all the time, but I'd hate to have the experience of living in LA. So it's really a trade-off. How is living in LA working for you aside from the clown-oriented side of it?
I'm enjoying it. It's definitely different in some ways. One of the big things for me has been trying to find natural spaces that I like to go hiking in, because that was a big thing about the Bay Area. There's just so many beautiful places to go. And I found a lot of really amazing places to hike. And it's like the truth of the matter is that like as much of the sprawl that is LA, that was something for me that was not as enticing about moving here, has kind of happened a lot in the Bay Area since the boom of the tech industry there. I feel like they're a lot more similar than people like to think they are. But definitely the weather in the Bay Area is much, much better. It gets really hot versus the Bay Area, or at least the peninsula.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but you're living in it's effectively a desert down there, so it's got to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your experiences being an actor in LA and a clown. What have you gotten to do, and where has it taken you?
So far, I've gotten to be on a couple game shows, which has been really fun. I got to do a water stunt one called Cannonball, which was a complete blast. I wish I had made it longer, but they seem to really like me, and I've been able to be on another game show, which was a lot of fun with called People Puzzler. But it's been a definite learning experience. Like I definitely have some goals set up for myself, like getting representation, to be able to help me get more auditions and stuff, and just like learning what a good reel looks like, learning how long your video reel should be, learning what the setup for stealth tape should be. Because before, like, and it's changing right now. Before it was you could have a blue background, a solid blue background with a certain amount of lighting. And now they're like, no, we want to have this like long shot look, so where the background is faded but you're in focus. And it's like, okay. So but it's just learning those aspects of the business, which were I had started to learn a little bit when I was at San Francisco a couple years ago, but it's just the amount of information and the amount of things that I can do to learn there's just so much more here. Like I've done like classes where I like perform in front of a whole bunch of agents and talent managers, and they give us notes about everything just to help me learn about how I can ground brand, especially because I'm going towards, being a clown, being like a character actor, what, they would call it here in LA. When people think of clown, at least in Hollywood, they definitely think of like birthday party, yama yama clown, like really, really big, but not necessarily like the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, you look at people like Gilkey and the Idiot Workshop and With the Hippo, and they don't appear to have the word clown anywhere in their main promotional thrust. but I mean that is inherently what they're doing, and like Natalie Palamides with her Nate show on Netflix. They don't mention clown in that at all, but that is what it is. It is just a big theatrical clown show, an amazing one. Have you seen it?
Yes, it's phenomenal. But I mean, that's the kind of like that's the clown work that's going on in LA predominantly. It's clown work, but no one calls it clown. Like, you know, it's again so much more like focus on branding here, where it's like the words you use are very specific about who you are. Like, again, like I said, I'm not going to market myself as a clown. I'm going to market myself as a character actor with a background in clowning. So I can juggle, I can do all of those things, but it's not how I'm going to put my foot forward if I'm going into a meeting with a casting director or an agent or a talent manager. Like, you know, I need to have very specific like criteria of what I want to market myself. And that's really, more than anything else, has been what I've been learning being here in LA. It's like this work is so much more about creating content versus creating art.
Okay.
Like, but it's not bad because there's like overlap in both. But like just the way the industry is set up, it's all about content. It's like I want a job on a television show, you know, like especially a late night sketch show. It's like I'm writing things every week. I'm constantly creating content because that's what the business here is set out. I want to create this thing that speaks to me, which can happen, and that's a lot of independent films and other things that does happen, but it's not as prevalent as people are just, we need to chuck out content. What's our new reality TV show? What's our new season of The Bachelor? What, you know, that sort of just like, you know, like the machine aspects of entertainment, where it's so much more about like, you know, again, modifying a product that you can continue to sell to people.
That makes sense. I mean, that's also how YouTube seems to work, and a lot of the entertainment industry in general, not just in LA, seems to work. It is about quantities over everything else. That you need to just be continuously producing, continuously swimming. Let's talk more about clown than acting, though. Let's go back to your Pie Clown days. Tell me about your Monster Strong character.
That character has a lot of like deep love for me. I love that character a lot. It really is, isn't it? Like both me exposing some of my deepest fears in a way, because like I, as a human being, I will admit I'm kind of shy. I'm a little like, you know, make myself small. So it's like in that character, it was bringing these parts of me out that I've always tried to hide in a way. So it's like this wonderful place of vulnerability of being like this macho strongman character, you know, monster strong, yeah, sort of thing, which is like not my MO. And I for me, the crux of that character and what I wanted to do with that character was play with the line of masculinity for myself, because that's as a non-binary person, there are a lot of parts of me that in our culture would be seen as very feminine, even though I am a very broad-chested, hairy, man-looking person, you know. So that character was always about playing with that line of masculinity, of like showing off, of like what does it mean to fail. A masculine thing. Me and Andrew P. Quick made a wrestling act that was all about that, all about the bigger, stronger guy losing, which was, you know, a convention in a lot of clowning. You saw that in Buster Keaton with Fatty Arbuckle all the time, where the underdog would win. It's like, you know, but what happens to that big guy that you expect to win? What, and how do they redefine themselves?
I've always been a fan of your Monster Strong work, and just to clarify to people, it is kind of a strongman character, this clown, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
and,
that's the crux of it. I mean, my favorite trick I ever created for that character was taking a piece of coal, putting it between my butt cheeks, squeezing really hard, and out came a diamond. But that's that show off it. Look how strong I can do these things, and look, I can break a pencil. It's an enemy. You know, sort of this ridiculous strongman.
Feats of strength, yeah.
Yeah.
So thinking about how you develop that character, what and just how you develop your work in general, how do you go about creating a new piece of work?
It depends. There's a couple different ways. Like one of them is I try to journal every day, at least like 500 words. Even it's just talking about what's going on, but I'll try and sit down and write out 10 ideas, 10 concepts, or 10 different things a day to kind of give me inspiration for okay, what could I use in this? One of the things that I made recently was a fake Fabio quarantine commercial for basically I can't believe it's not butter, but it's still quarantine, and I made it look, but I can't believe it's not butter. That image was the thing that brought all of that about, was making a fake commercial, because I grew up watching those I can't believe it's not butter commercials with Fabio, and it's just that just putting out so much stuff and then seeing what sticks and working from there.
You mentioned earlier about being non-binary and playing into the masculine aspects of your personality and your gender in the Monster Strong character. How does your gender present itself in your clown and in your work, and how does one impact the other?
A lot of it is, I'll admit, a lot of my work will present something masculine. It's presenting both, because I feel like I'm a lot of both a lot of the time. But it's for me, it's playing with a lot of that. It's playing with where femininity comes out. For the Monster Strong character, it was the storyline that I tried to create for him was that after he lost, how does he define himself? Did a belly dancing act, and I think now that I think about it more, I think it could have been something different, especially in the process of becoming feminine, that I never played with as much as I would have liked. But I think it informs me a lot, just because of thinking about the image of myself, because as I present myself, I look very cis. I look very much like a chubby, and it's finding ways to play with that, and playing in the contradiction of being this large macho, I can look really angry man, but being very feminine at the same time. It goes to one of the media characters I've always identified with, which is the Capitano, which I think is kind of a stock character that plays with the bravado of masculinity and not having that. That's something I see in myself a lot. What typical conventions are of masculinity, I don't have that, or I don't feel like I have that. How can I play with having things that aren't traditionally masculine, but put them in a masculine place and see how they fit, see how they feel? Because when it comes down to it, gender is a construct, and we're all mishmashes of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. so you moved to LA. You're doing acting. You've done some game shows. When and how are you finding ability to do clown and express your clown? What kind of shows are you doing, or what kind of work are you doing as a clown right now?
Most of what I'm doing right now is like YouTube videos. I've been doing a lot of that. A little bit more towards the acting side of things than clowning. I would say one of my favorite characters that I created just personally was for the Boston Comedy Festival. I created a short called Gale, the Genderqueer Pirate, and I'd really like to bring that character back in something soon. But I really appreciated playing with that gender non-binary thing, and especially being a pirate in a like pink trench coat with a pink eye patch and like rougey makeup. It made me happy. So I've been doing a lot of that recently. I also was able to perform 1 week with the Bindlestiff Family Circus for their online shows. I did my Cupid act, which I love, and they did it for their Valentine's Day, and that's been a space. And I've been trying to. It's just one of those things where it's like I'm still kind of new to the area in some ways, that I haven't made a lot of clowning contacts yet. I know a few. I saw a few people in Alhambra were doing clown shows at the park that I went to once. It was fun, but it was COVID, so I was like, I didn't want to really go up and meet them. I'm like, I'm appreciating some clowning, but I kind of trying to keep my distance from people. But now that I'm vaccinated, it's all over.
Yeah,
everyone's getting licked in the face.
Licked in the face. Okay, we got a few more questions before we wrap up. What are some of the media? You've already mentioned Buster Keaton and Chris Farley and John Candy and John Belushi and Fatty Arbuckle. Who are some of the media, not necessarily just clowns, but some of the media in general, TV, movies, plays, music, books, whatever, that have influenced the clown that you became?
Ooh, that is a good question. Definitely lots of media. The play One Man, Two Governors is one of my absolute favorites.
Richard Bean, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic show. Dario Fo, I really like a lot of his work. A lot of Beckett, Samuel Beckett, Ibsen. Yeah, I think so. Gosh. And as far as thinking about there's a lot of all sorts of. Patton Oswalt's one of my absolute favorites right now. Him and Hannah Gadsden would be probably two of my favorite comedians that I've seen.
That's very good, yeah.
And just of course, Bill Irwin. The Regard of Flight is on YouTube. Definitely worth checking out. And there's just so many. Definitely. Abbott and Costello, Three Stooges. The list goes on and on and on with things that influenced me. I mean, even some more serious things, or things like Hitchcock. I always really like, because Hitchcock is a master of suspense and of holding tension. But his stuff never breaks, never a punchline to get everyone to laugh. But just his stuff and a lot of thriller stuff like that are masters of being able to hold tension in different ways. But it never, in suspense thrillers, it never really breaks. It kind of shifts and lessens. With comedies, you have that really high escalation of tension and then a hard break off, which usually elicits the laughter response. But yeah, those are just some of them. I could keep going.
No, that's great. Okay, what is, due to budgets or logistics or just timing, what is a project that you've always wanted to do but couldn't?
Oh man, project I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to create a modern dance that was based on a couple different Mingus songs. That was like in a way a story about like coming to a new city, creating family, of like, you know, that basically trying to tell like immigrant story through clowning, or like a moving story, someone who's moved from one place to another. And, you know, this big production with like 30 people, like I've always had this image of like, you know, people creating this like busy sidewalk that messes up the clown. And like each time the clown has like less pieces of clothing on, you know, every time the whole rush until they're just left with their hat covering up their genitals. I've always, like, that's been an image in my mind, and like how that clown character builds themselves back up when being left with like literally nothing, or you know, having it that after that moment of reveal of them just holding their hat over their junk, everyone comes back and then they're fully dressed. Like, you know, that story of finding yourself has always had a big, you know, part of my own life, because, you know, life is about finding yourself, and we're always changing. So it's a constant search for our own personality, who we are.
Great. That sounds amazing. That sounds really cool. I hope you get to do that someday.
Yeah.
Okay, couple more questions, and then I'll let you go. If you were to tag 3 more people to be on the podcast after you, who would they be?
Let's. I think just with the people I know you've already done, I'm trying to think of other people. I don't know if you've done Calvin. Haiku was the one.
Yeah, I've had Calvin.
Let's see.
The longer the show runs, the harder it is for people to answer this question.
But probably I would say Fable Keithman is another big one.
Okay.
And I love what he's been doing with the big park circus and stuff. And let's see. I'm trying to think. Nicholas Stroop. No, or actually Edna, or
Edna. I've had Edna on. Yeah, Edna's great.
Okay. But yeah, I'm trying to again think of other people.
Nicholas Stroop is someone I hadn't thought about in a while, so that's a good person to reach out to. He hadn't crossed my mind recently, so I'll reach out and see what he and Fava are up to. Okay, one last question before I let you go, John. What are you up to now, and where can people find your work and find you online?
You can find me on my website, www.jondeline.com, which is my name, Jon. But you can also find me on Facebook. I have my Jon Deline Facebook page, my Jon Deline Entertainer Facebook page. You can find me on Instagram at MonsterStrong86, and also on YouTube, my YouTube channel. I can probably send you all the links. All of that. Yeah. I have a few other projects coming up, and hopefully a few things that I was able to shoot over the pandemic that eventually will be able for people to see, including my first full length movie that I was in. And a spoof of Once Upon a Time Hollywood.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, and I will talk to you again very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Abraham. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, John.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today on Ridiculous Life of a Clown. If you enjoyed this program and you'd like to get more of it, please consider sponsoring us on Patreon at patreon.com/picklewater. For as little as $1 a month, you can help make sure that this podcast keeps coming to your ears on a regular basis. Theme music by Kevin MacLeod.